the Beautiful Game Network. Steve, Kevin, the gang is mostly all here. The Hounds got their first point of the season after a road trip to Birmingham. We're going to talk all about that, plus top 11 of Lily era, Rochester no longer being a thing, and much more. Let's go. Laura Ellen, long time no see. How's it going?
Yes. I think it's going well. Yeah. Last time I checked, still alive, have a roof over my head. My bank hasn't collapsed, so yeah, I think I'm good.
How many plants are in the background right now? Like, do you have a count of plants?
Oh, I don't have a count.
Okay, I was just
you
curious.
could have asked me that half an hour ago, and I would have counted for you. But yes, this is my home office. This is where I spend most of my time, and so I do everything I can to make sure the oxygen is as rich in here. And it just makes me happy, and I get lots of compliments, so why not?
Josh, I see you looking around. Is that your way of saying you have no plants?
There's nothing alive in this room. It is all just plastic and toys and records, and all the windows have blackout blinds on them and are closed. Like, I live in a cave.
Yeah. I was just thinking my hallway definitely could use some more life other than this just like boring green background. So, Steve, how's it going?
It's going. I'm here. Just working, trying to get through these gray days and looking forward to nicer weather again. Soccer's here. That's good. Fun to see the Hounds play and to go to some of the preseason games and get to see people again. So, coming out of the winter shell is a good thing.
Kev, as Steve pointed out, you're showing off your sunlight there in Tennessee, whereas it's a bit gray and gloomy for us right now. I'm still recovering from the whole daylight savings crap, but how are things there for you?
Yeah, same. No, I mean, we're reverting back into second winter, as we like to refer to it. It was gorgeous for 3 or 4 days straight. It was like 72, sunny every day. And now we're back into I think it was like low 40s this morning, and it kind of just hung around that temperature. But it's good.
Good. Josh, how was the watch party on Saturday?
Oh man, St. Patty's Day is crazy. I know it's not real St. Patty's Day, but it's Pittsburgh St. Patty's Day.
Hold on, one thing real quick. I was like, it's St. Patty's Day. And my wife was like, it's not really St. Patty's Day. And I was like, what do you mean? And when I looked on the calendar, St. Patty's Day is actually this upcoming Friday. Like, wouldn't it make more sense to celebrate St. Patty's Day like this upcoming Saturday?
So they have a rule. The rule is they always do it the Saturday before St. Patty's Day. It is always the Saturday before. So if it is on a Friday, like it was, it doesn't matter that it would be easy. Just have it the next day. They want to have it before the actual holiday. So that's why it was almost a full week before St. Patty's Day.
Can't wait for our booze.
We can't. Yeah, exactly. I don't get I get it, I guess, but at the same time, I don't get everyone else going out to the bars that day. Like the parade, sure. But if it's next week, you would think everyone would be like, we'll do this on Saturday, the following Saturday.
Yeah.
Nope. Bulldog was packed, full of green. I walk in, and of course I'm so focused on the Hounds and thinking about what's going on and in that whole world. I come in not wearing a spot of green, all yellow and black. I'm decked out, ready to go. And I'm just like, oh, right, St. Patty's Day. I should have wore at least something green to not completely stand out like a sore thumb in this bar. But yeah, it was still fun. We got there 2 hours early to kind of scope out seats and try to get a spot because it was standing room only. So we ended up getting our favorite spots in the middle of the pub with the bar, the long table next to the bar, and got everyone posted up there. By the second half, it was all Riverhounds fans was in that section. So it was good.
There were some videos floating around. It looked like it was a good time, packed house, everybody cheering for the Hounds, which is great. Yeah, let's get right into the game because there's lots of things to talk about on this one, guys. Hounds draw, as we said, 1-1 with Birmingham. Let's start with the starting lineup. This is always the biggest question coming out of the preseason is which one of these guys are actually going to play. And I think it's probably I don't want to say the least surprising lineup that we've seen in recent years, but for the most part, Lily stuck with some of the regulars from last season. So in goal, you had Jamali Waite. Across the back, he played a 4. Basically, it was a 4-4-2, but we'll get into like the formations here in a minute. Across the back, you had Dos Santos, Ordonez, Hogan, who is a new player, and Rivera. And then in the midfield, you had Mertz, E2, Kenny, and Ibarra. E2 also being a new player, and then Kizandikwa. So what? 9 out of the 11 we had seen last year. What was interesting for me was that on the bench, we had a backup keeper in Garner. We had 3 forwards, Blackstock, Lopez, and Shonami. And then we had a center back Farrell, wingers Biasi and Failing, and no central mids. So immediately I was like, if Kenny gets tired, what do we do? There's nobody to come in for Kenny or Ibarra or Mertz or E2. And as we saw, Lily shuffled some things around, but I just thought it was interesting. I immediately thought like, oh, do we have a depth issue here in the first game of the season? But maybe not. Let's do some takeaways here. Kev, I'll pick you first. Give me a takeaway from this game.
I guess I didn't know what to expect, obviously, as far as the lineup, as you already mentioned, but I was leaning towards expecting a back 3. So the fact that we come out with a back 4 with just 2 fullbacks, both of which like to be adventurous going forward, surprised me a little bit. And it continued the message from last year of Bob liking to put a lot of responsibility on his center backs to like go 1v1 versus their forwards, which is a pretty big statement against going up against Birmingham forwards. I know Nico didn't start, but yeah, I mean, so, and I was impressed with what I saw. I mean, overall, I'll keep it short and sweet, but I mean, that was my biggest kind of first takeaway. That, and I'm really happy with the point. I thought for large portions of the game, fairly balanced. If not, Birmingham looked better. And then we had a spell for maybe 15 minutes in the second half where we looked better. And we come away with, I mean, the beginning of the season results always make us look like a fool when it comes to the end of the season. But it'd be a fair statement to say that this might be one of our toughest away games, and we, come away with it 1-1 and with a decent showing. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Laura Ellen, what did you think?
Well, I didn't watch the game, except for it must have been the 15 minutes that Kev was talking about, because what I saw of the game, I was like, wow, they look great. I was like very impressed. And I was like, what is Michael complaining about?
We'll get to it. Don't worry.
I know. Yeah. I haven't added my thoughts to the outline, but I've been thinking them.
Cool.
But I will say, for the first game of the season and it being away and all the issues that have been kind of discussed, yes, exactly, to Bill's point, right? A point is a point is a point is a point, right? Like, and it's away. It's the beginning of the season. I think we've talked previously about how there has been kind of this slow buildup, or at least lots of draws at the beginning. And so, right, we weren't blown out, right? It wasn't 3-0 Birmingham. And so, and I think the buildup that I did see, I saw some really nice, pressure by Dos Santos and kind of seeing that up the sides, to Kevin's point earlier. And so, so I was expecting to tune in. I had an event and I, came home and I tuned in. I was expecting, based on how, Michael has been this whole preseason, I was like, it's going to look like middle schoolers out there who, we're just like following the ball around and can't. And certainly there were a few times where I was like, okay, maybe do better. But I feel that way when I watch, right? We had the Barcelona game on Sunday, and right, like, I feel like anytime I watch, I'm like, okay, well, you could have done better there. So all that to say, the 15, 20 minutes that I watched, and I'm happy with a point. And also, we'll get to it, but I'm winning those season tickets that I'm not eligible for, but I'm still going to win.
We'll see, we'll get there. Steve, what'd you think? Give us a takeaway.
A lot of things to be hopeful about and a lot of things to still be concerned about as the team goes forward for me. Much better than I had expected. I mean, I guess kind of saw a little bit more in the preseason game against Louisville. The team looked a lot more cohesive than they had in the previous preseason games I had been to. So that was good to see, and that carried on through. However, still a lot of the same concerns I've had in the past. I remember 3 or 4 occasions where it's just like finally getting some beautiful crosses. Nate made some absolutely beautiful crosses into the box, and no one was there. And so those things, if they don't improve, and it's one of those things where it's like that for me is a coach thing. Like Bob has to get the players playing differently if he wants those chances to be converted. I felt like first 20 minutes, the Hounds had the better chances, despite Birmingham having the better opportunities, if that makes sense. Like Birmingham was doing a lot more with the ball and putting themselves in dangerous positions, but our defense just kept stifling them and they weren't getting chances to score. We got a few that we could have scored on fairly early. And so that was encouraging to see both of those things happen, right? That when a team was threatening, our defense locked it down. Hogan looked really good next to Arturo. So hopefully that partnership grows and flourishes throughout the season. And we can find a way to turn those opportunities into goals because we're going to need them this year.
Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, going into this, keep in mind that I was expecting a 2-0 Birmingham win. Like I was really not thinking we were going to be firing on all cylinders right now. We're going to be needing a lot of help with the attack. But with that said, like within the first 6 minutes, like that's when the first yellow card happened against Birmingham. And Mertz took that set piece from the spot. Like I think it was like a couple of yards outside the box. And I mean, if it wasn't for the offside, like it looked like that was a great opportunity. It wasn't that far offside either. It wasn't like he wouldn't have been able to get to that ball if he was onside. I think that could have been a goal easily right there alone. And so like getting those opportunities and seeing Mertz looking like the Mertz we remembered. Like last season, we didn't really get that much from Mertz, and I felt like it was a little bit like just frazzled and looked like he was trying to figure out how to fit back into the system. But like getting him in this game actually looking the way he looked before he left Pittsburgh was fantastic. And I was like, oh, that's right. This could be really good. Like, so yeah, this game was good. I mean, it wasn't great. Obviously we didn't get 3 points, but it was definitely a lot farther along than I thought we would be right now.
To your
Preface
point,
that though, keep in mind, Birmingham also had like 2 major injuries where they're not having their star players, and you can only play the team you have against you though. So it's like, yes, I get that. But overall, this is a lot better than I expected this early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
And to your point about Mertz, his finish was like clinical. Like he just sort of took it down. There was no hesitation. It's like he knew he was going to score before he scored, which that level of confidence we haven't seen in many of our players in quite some time. So hopefully that all continues. I will say that, first of all, I agree with everything that's been said thus far. A point is a point is a point is a point. So anything that I say now is more just sort of looking forward. I thought that there were a number of positives to sort of take away. I thought Mertz was a big positive. I thought that Junior 2 looked like Kenny, maybe like 5 or 6 years younger with some shots of espresso in him. So like, I think that's promising. If you're looking at, here's basically a bench player from Tampa, and now he's stepping in and, playing similar to a Kenny Forbes-ish type role in a Lilly system. That's a feather in Lilly's cap for being able to take players that may not make it elsewhere and do it's one game, but that can make an impact in this game. So I'm interested to see what happens there. I thought
I was almost mad that Mertz played so well because I so wanted Etu to be the like main point of conversation for this because I thought he was incredible. I mean, I didn't know what to expect from him, and there were multiple points. I was watching the game with Riley, especially in the first half, where I was getting frustrated. I was like, Etu's too good for us. Like he's playing with players around. Like I was like, we need better players. Like we're a joke, and he's just like he was head and shoulders for me like the best player for the first half in so many different occasions. I don't know if I agree with the Kenny comparisons, but yeah. Anyway, I'll stop. I thought he was amazing.
Other positives for me, I thought Burke failing came on and looked bright, just like we saw in the preseason. Dude's closing speed is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see how Lily deploys him in the future. I thought that Tula's showing me he's a big dude. Like, see, I don't know if it was the position of the camera or what compared to what we saw in the preseason, but dude looks like he could be a force. This is his first pro deal out of college. So he's going to take some time to sort of learn the ropes and do the thing. But he looked like he could cause some havoc. He missed that sitter, but it was just like
I don't think that was as easy as it might have looked.
I think especially
if you freeze frame it and show like how much of the goal is actually open, it like he either has to like hit that really hard and low and hopefully it like skirts under the goalie, or put his foot on it and just stop it, and that's extremely hard to do in that scenario. So
I referred to it as a sitter because I think that was the impression that most people had, but I was going to say the same exact thing as you did. Like unless you wanted him to take a risk and like miss it wide, he put it where he needed to put it, and the keeper just made a great save. So I thought that was good.
And I want to like a great save. Like he came out, he knew what he was doing, an experienced keeper against a guy taking his first ever professional shot, right? Like, right. And it still was like, oh, that's a good shot, right? Like that's a big, big plus for him, for me. Like, love to
I really
see
don't
that
like
confidence.
their keeper, by the way.
I was just going to say, Kev, I was thinking the exact same thing. I don't have a lot to contribute to this portion of the podcast, but when I turned it on, and I think there must have been a goal kick or something, I looked over at Justin. I was like, how is he still playing? Justin's like, he's not that old. I said, I find him so irritating. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the beard. I mean, Justin has a big beard, so I don't think that's it. But anyway, he just irks me in just the most profound way. And I can't describe it, but anyway.
It's too much mustache. He has a beard, yes, but his mustache is big.
Is that what it is?
It feels bushy, and it doesn't look right. It looks like he doesn't shave the mustache. I would look him up,
but I can't care enough to know his name. So that might be it, Josh. But there's something about the way he walks. Oh,
that's it. It's the way he walks.
Is that what?
Anyway, we're getting too personal.
I want to teach him it's too much mustache now. Like
it's too much mustache.
It's too much mustache. Yeah. So yeah, those were some of the bright spots. I thought one of the other really interesting things was literally how fluid the team played. At times, it almost felt like to a fault. Like we sort of started with a 4-2-4, and then there were times it was like a 3-5-2, and then there were times that it almost felt like 2 at the back, and everybody else was pushed up. And you had this, Mertz and Ibarra were constantly switching around. One of my concerns is that we're going to burn Kenny out because he was going from center, like holding midfielder to center back to, there were times he was all the way up in the attack. And I'm worried that an over reliance on Kenny is not a good thing for this team long-term. So we'll see. A couple of other things that didn't look so good to me. I mentioned this to you guys, not to single him out, but there were multiple times that Ibarra was passing to nobody, and it was noticeable. And so I'm really hoping that this wasn't the case, that Lily was like putting all of his faith in Ibarra to be like the guy. He could still turn into the guy. I'm not knocking him, but it's just like performances like that all season aren't going to cut it. They're going to hurt us more than anything.
I don't think he was the only person misplacing passes, though. I mean, there were a ton of times where you would see a turnover and Birmingham would break, and it would be those one-on-one situations with our center backs, and it was pretty frustrating. But plus, I don't really know where it seemed like at times Ibarra. I mean, the formation was kind of all over the place, which, given certain circumstances, you can say is a plus. I would argue in most cases this game was probably a negative. It seemed like Ibarra at times was playing a more like a left-sided attacking midfielder, or even just like a midfielder out wide. And that's not his position. I don't want him anywhere near that.
Well, that was one of the things that was interesting. Whenever we were playing with 4 at the back, it almost felt like we weren't getting Dos Santos and Rivera pushing up high because you had Mertz and Ibarra in front of them sort of doing that work. So it was like, well, then is the plan to have Dos Santos and Rivera sort of staying back? And is that playing to their strengths? We'll just sort of have to wait and see.
It was interesting, like with that regards. I think it wasn't so much the fluidity that was the issue for me. It was just not all, but a lot of the passes were just heavy passes. It seemed like every time they trapped the ball, it went flying in front of them, and they had to hurry up and run up on the ball. Which, I mean, I feel like that is the type of thing that we were going to see become less of an issue farther into the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Ibarra had a couple of those. I also think Dos Santos did not have a good game. Like it seemed like he had a lot of those, or like errant passes where he just kind of booted it up and looked like he was trying to like lead the ball in front of our players, but he was just leading it way too far, and Birmingham was getting it back. But overall, I mean, those are pretty small compared to what we could be having a conversation about right now. The defending for the corner kick that became the goal for Birmingham was also pretty egregious, I thought. Like we have a big team.
Yeah.
How did someone get a jump up and like get a goal where it looked like no one around him was even defending that at all or trying to get ahead on it?
Yeah, I'll agree that I think that the issues that I had with this game, a lot of it could be chalked up to sort of first game jitters, and that we'll get past it. The only other thing that sort of was glaring to me was just that the offense clearly wasn't clicking. You know, Liz made a comment here that she was a little bit upset that there wasn't a Kiza goal. Honestly, we didn't have a shot on goal until Mertz scored in the second half. And so even at that, I think we may have finished with 2 or 3 shots on goal. I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me, but it wasn't anything that spectacular. And it just felt, even with Showenme's chance, that came off of just Tony Lopez basically picking up the ball and running at the goal. Like there wasn't any thought of passing, playing. It was just, I'm going to take a shot. It deflected off, and Showenme was there to try to recover. But on the flip side of that, you know, at this point, especially this early in the season, I don't really care about results. I kind of want to see, is the team growing and doing things? And there were large stretches of this game where it seemed like we were very focused on just keeping possession, and we did a relatively good job of that. Even if we were going backwards, it was just like, hold the ball, keep it away from Birmingham. I'd love to see that eventually turn into offense, but it just wasn't in the first game. And so I can't complain too much about that.
I kind of disagree. I don't know. I know we had the possession stats in the first half. I think we were like 55% possession, at least at the end of the first half. To me, it felt like the longer we held onto the ball, the more uncomfortable we got. It felt like a restless leg syndrome kind of like night, where it's just like, I have the ball, I have to get it forward, and I have to do something with it. And I know they would work it back. But it felt like every time one of our players got the ball, if they had 5 to 6 seconds on the ball, they thought they had 2. And, you know, you can make the argument, well, they're just trying to move it. I don't think they were just trying to move it quick. I think they were just like antsy and just like didn't want to hold on the ball and put their foot on the ball, other than Kenny. Kenny gets on the ball and he looks relaxed and cool as a cucumber, and that's great. Not really the case for other people. And I think that's, I don't know, I think it might go back to that whole point of fluidity almost to a fault, where you put your foot on it, you look up, you don't really know where anyone's going to be. That's why I think our goal was so refreshing to see is because Ordonez hits this beautiful diag that's just perfect on Mertz's chest, and he takes it and scores. So the possession thing, I think, is, I don't know. It'll be curious to see how that evolves, because it did seem like there was a desire to control the ball, but I don't know.
This early, I think what I'm trying to just gauge is like, are there any signs of what this team is trying to become? And I think that the two things that stood out for me were sort of this crazy formation shifting constantly and an attempt at playing some form of possession soccer. And if that's the case, then I think it's a fair thing to say that the offense not clicking might just be something that's going to take a few weeks and then they'll figure it out. It might not. We've talked in the past about how it just kind of feels like, and we'll get to something else later here, but that, Lily might struggle to actually put together an offense rather than just finding offensive players. And so, Mertz's goal was very much a lone effort, or I shouldn't say lone. It was a two-person effort. Ordonez with the great cross, and then Mertz just making it happen. But you don't see we haven't really seen in the past few years a lot of like, I don't even want to say tiki-taka, but just like build up offensive play. It's just these one-off strikes, and that's fine. You could be a counter-attacking team, but yeah.
As much as we're talking about this team, or how Bob likes to tinker with the team and really kind of change things up, somebody keep in mind, this is the exact same starting lineup we had for the last preseason game against Louisville. This was what came out in the field right at the beginning. So this was definitely the plan from the start. I feel like you don't have happen to have the exact same starting lineup 2 games in a row, unless this was what your plan is. So I do feel like there is consistency, even if the formation itself is not consistent.
Steve, what do you think?
Oh, I don't know. You guys all said a lot in there, so what do I want to talk about in there?
You were like leaning forward. I thought you had a hot take to come at us.
No, I was just like, I'm invested in the conversation.
Oh, okay. Well, so let's
I like it.
So it's been one game, right? Yeah. If you could describe, well, I'll go first so you guys will have time to think. If you could describe your feelings about the team after this one game in like a word or two, how would you describe? Yeah. Okay. Laura Ellen, we're doing this. Okay. We all watch more than 15 minutes. I would say that
Kevin's not going to use a word or two. I'm sorry. I'm calling out Laura right now.
I'm pulling out my dissertation. I'm gonna start reading.
I will say that I was, I was going to say cautiously optimistic, but pleasantly surprised. So cautiously surprised maybe would be my 2 words, in that there were things that I saw that I think are worth being excited about and could bode things that are really well to come. But there were also things that it's clear to me the team still needs to figure out, and I'm not convinced that we will figure it out. So it was if I'm ranking it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a solid 5 right now. I'm not over the moon, but I'm also not,
5 out of 10's failing, Mike.
Well, Kev, you go next. Give us 2 words, and none of this I'm ignoring the laws of the game. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say good spine. I think I was really happy with Ordonez, Hogan, and when Farrell came on from what I saw of Farrell, coupled with Jamali Waite, who now has a second season with us, who I think can turn into, I think he's already, I would say, a slightly above average USL keeper. And I think he could kick on and become a little better than that. So, a good keeper with 2 good center backs with a third one pushing for competition. And Etu, I think, is just he is the perfect central midfielder that I think that we need. If you want to supplement that with Kenny next to him, cool. If you want to supplement that with Mertz next to him, cool. And then I think we have a conversation around forwards. I don't know. I was never really convinced Kizza or Diko was going to score in this game. but I'm really happy with that diamond partnership of keeper, 2 center backs, and a really strong midfielder. And I think that's a good platform.
Liz says it
Ha
depends.
ha, yeah.
Steve, what do you think?
Return to classic Lily. More, but
we'll let it go.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, that's what it seems like. It seems like Bob's going back to his make sure the defense is rock solid and see what happens from there.
Yeah. Laura Ellen, do you have thoughts? I didn't mean to upset you with the I didn't mean to upset you with the 15-minute comment. I apologize.
No, I mean, so I have been faithfully listening to this podcast for many years, but especially this preseason.
We're sorry.
Listening to Michael drone on and on about how depressed he is. And like my whole thing, and I was trying to think of, being concise and just like realistic expectations, right? I am trying to have realistic expectations when it comes to this team. And so the 15 minutes I saw, I was like, oh, maybe I should watch the highlights before I jump on the podcast. No, didn't do it. I feel like Kevin. I'm like channeling my inner Kevin. But I just, this feels about right? Like it feels for a second division U.S. soccer team who I've been following for, quite a number of years, who are not like flowing in are not like swimming in money. Clearly, it seems, and if they are, they're not putting it toward players. Like this feels fine to me, right? Like, and I'm not saying that to be disparaging. I'm not saying that to try and cover up poor performance. This like meets expectations, right? In kindergarten, when you have the satisfactory, this is satisfactory for me. That I think that's kind of where I'm landing on it, and I think there's room to grow. I think there is plenty of room to develop. I couldn't exactly tell what was going on with the field for the portion that I was watching, but I'm also like, this is one game. If people were like hyped up, it's the first game of the season. Who knows kind of what travel was like. Birmingham is, far away. I don't know. Indifference? Is that like enthusiastic indifference? There we go.
You went from meets expectations to indifference. I feel like you talked yourself down the ladder a little bit, but that's fair.
They feel like pretty level to me. Like I'm not gonna lose sleep about. Like I'm not upset, right? Yeah. It's a point, right? Like I'm not upset. One game, it was away. Now, if we like play the next several games, and when we drive ourselves out to Pittsburgh, and if we lose the home opener like 5-0, then I'm gonna be a little perturbed. But like right now, I'm like, yeah, this is fine, right? This is fine. And not right again, not in a negative way, just like this is what I expect.
Not dog on fire, just like it's
right.
Fine.
Not dog on fire, just.
Yeah. Josh, we'll give you the final word on this game.
Full of potential, potentially. It's definitely one of those things. Yeah. It felt like this was like, I think, especially in this podcast, maybe not this episode, but in general, this preseason, we've been kind of bracing for the worst and like thinking like, I don't know, this could be like, this is going to be a rough year. And like, it felt good to actually have the game go. And then it looked like, okay, there's something here. There's something to work with. We can do this. They can do this, I should say. And like, it's not going to be complete and utter chaos and crap. Like it looks like there's a lot here to work with. And the players that Lily's been able to get, they just seem like sneakily good as far as like working together in the pieces. I am worried about our offense still. That's kind of like been the drum we've been beating all off season, is being worried about this offense. But if we have a Mertz that's firing on all cylinders, if we have, a Forbes who still can get the job done, which he seems to be able to get the job done, and some other pieces that are falling into place. Yeah, this could work. I'm excited to see what happens next, but I'm still trepidatious.
Fair.
For context here, I think me and Steve gave the least Kevin answers out of all of these. I think Mike, Josh, and Laura Ellen, you were all very Kevin answers, if I do say so myself.
I had like 5 words. I'm sorry.
I mean, I think actually something you said, Josh, and I do wonder, and this was kind of a theme earlier, right? This renewed confidence that Mertz has. And, it seems like last season he did just kind of seem off a little bit. And who knows, right? Like, we're looking at one aspect of a whole human being. So, like, who knows? But I do wonder, kind of having players who have that confidence, who have that self-assuredness to, be able to, like, go out there and be like, I know what my coach expects of me. I know what I expect of myself. And I know, and I have the confidence that I can do this. And these are the men around me who we're going to do this together. I think there's like something that's there that, hopefully can, certainly can't make up for talent, but can, potentially, bridge some gaps. So I think that is something that's important, and it will be interesting to see as the season progresses and as hiccups inevitably come, what that looks like. So yeah, I think that would be interesting. Yeah, just to kind of like keep on like the Mertz swagometer or something. I don't know, right? Not like swag, like, people we don't like swag in a good way. Swag.
Yeah. I will say, if Mertz is our leading goal scorer at the end of the season, we have a problem.
Yeah, like, that would be bad.
Yeah.
I was going to say one thing that makes me somewhat optimistic, and I haven't done any research on this. Like, we could go back and look and see the starting lineup of the first game of the season compared to what it is late in the season. But I get a sense that a lot of these guys on the bench, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are multiple guys on the bench that are going to make their way into the starting 11 within the next few weeks. And so this team is going to
give me some names.
Different.
What do you think?
I would love to see Showing Me in there. I think that
I don't think he's a starter for us.
I think he could be. I think Failing could make a case to be a starter. We still haven't seen DK yet, who I had said looked like Lebo Moloto in the preseason. So I think that those were kind of the only names I could come up with. One of the forwards feels like they have to pop between. I mean, you have Kizza.
They better.
Exactly. We talk about. You have Kizza, Dikwa. You have Tony Lopez. You have Showing Me.
Blackstock.
Yeah. Like somebody's got to pop, right? Hopefully, maybe. We'll see. Get the look of doubt on Kevin's face. So
so Dikwa can put him down for 9 to 10 goals if he's starting regularly, but he's not gonna light the world up. I think similarly, like if Deke was our leading goal scorer at the end of the season, okay, and it's better than Mertz, but I just don't think Deke was going to get us 15 to 20 goals in a season. I mean, that's going to be one of the questions, right? So say that our leading goal scorer gets 10 to 12 goals. Where do the rest of the goals come from? We better be like what Steve said, back to Lily era of letting up a total of 15 goals across the entire season, if that's the case. Yeah.
It could also just be spread out more. I mean, we don't necessarily need one player who's scoring, the majority of our goals. If they're spread out across like Kizza, Dikwa, Mertz, just the front-ish line of the team, the midfield and the front line, I think it's fine if, we have some high scorers, relatively high scorers, but just spread out.
I think that's fair, but my concern is who else in that midfield other than Mertz do you look to be a substantial contributor in terms of goals? And I don't know if there is somebody there. Maybe one of the guys like DK, or maybe it is the case where the two up top learn how to really work together, and then they're both putting in double-digit goals, and then it's less of a concern. Cool, but I think Kenny maybe gets 5 to 7 this year. Maybe. Yeah.
Etu, maybe 1 or 2. I wouldn't. I mean, looking back on it, I was watching some of the highlight clips or whatever. Wow, I don't know. One of you were pontificating.
Checks out.
And I forgot that leading up to Mertz's goal, so it was Ordonez who made the pass, but Etu broke up play, won the ball back for us, and sprung the counter and picked out a great pass for Ordonez. Etu just completely turned the.
Kev, we get it. You love it too. We get it.
He's
We
really
understand.
good. He's really good. I mean, it's one game.
It's
but
one game.
He's really good.
Yeah.
So,
In isolation, you could be like, Romeo Parks was the best player we've ever had based on one game.
Could we? I don't know.
I don't think we could.
Kevin's
Yeah,
really moving on from Griffin, huh?
that was
Yeah, yeah, he really is.
Yep.
I feel like that's a segue here. So first of all, real quick, we did put up a man of the match poll, and I guess unsurprisingly, 90% of there were like 50 people that voted. 90% of the voters picked Mertz, which I think it's hard to make an argument otherwise based on everything we said. Other than you're, a diehard Etu fan like Kevin is at this point.
To be clear, I voted for Mertz, but
I was going to ask. Okay.
Yeah.
I really, but it was fractions.
Yeah.
Wait, where was the poll? I missed it.
It was on Twitter. Sorry. Yeah,
Oh
you weren't
my
on Twitter.
gosh.
I know. We're still figuring out the balance here.
Poll.
Okay. Let's get to what Laura Ellen wants to talk about. So this game was our first chance at sort of seeing who could get some points in our annual, I guess we'll call it, Pick'em Challenge. So everybody was able to, I shouldn't say everybody, there were a few people that signed up and then didn't get their votes in on time. So make sure that you get your predictions in on time this week. It's not too late to play, even if you haven't signed up yet. It's 1 week. Like there's plenty of time to make up points. So all you got to do is become a supporter of the show. You can go over to YouTube, find our channel, go to the community section, or on Twitter. We'll share the link again. But after Laura Ellen's shaking her head, she doesn't want to give up points to anybody. After our first week, our leaders at this point are Dan Yost and Keaton Libengood, who both got 3 points. They picked the score exactly, a 1-1 draw. Kev, you and Laura Ellen also called a 1-1 draw. So you guys also get 3 points, but you can't win tickets. So anybody that's on the show, I just sort of highlighted in white here just to differentiate between those that can win tickets for 2024 versus those who cannot. And then that was followed by Devin Pale and Steve, who both got 1 point for picking a tie, but not the right score line. Everybody else picked the wrong score or the wrong outcome. And so we all still have 0. So those are your leaders. I don't know how I feel about, the host of Houndsy potentially getting 2 tickets, but we'll see, best of luck, Mr. Yost.
That was my immediate reaction. I was like, how does Dan get a chance? But I don't. Dan does more Riverhound stuff than I do.
Yeah, but not with us.
Yeah, not with us.
Mike, can you throw that graphic up again, please?
Sure.
I want to point out, I love the N64 90s 3D Mongols
you like that?
graphic.
I was going to mention it too. Yeah.
That's awesome. I feel like I'm playing GoldenEye or something.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. That was the goal, was let's go full GoldenEye on this thing. So yeah, that'll be the theme for this year. We'll change it up next year. Laura Ellen's shaking her head. One of the other things that was settled this week was we've been talking for really the past 2 weeks about the best 11 in the Lily era. And so we had a round of voting prior to the to last week's episode, and then we had an additional round of voting prior to this week's episode, and we now officially have the top 11 as voted by you all, and let's talk through it. We already knew in the back, we knew sort of the keeper and the center backs, but everything else was decided this past week. So we got Kyle Morton in goal. Across the back, we have 3 center backs, Joe Greenspan, Tommy V, Arturo Ordonez. Our wingers, this was a really hot battle, was Ryan James and Alex Dixon. And we actually had a poll, where should we vote for Dixon? And everybody said winger. So we said, okay, fine, we'll put him winger. Our midfield turned out to be Kevin Kerr, Kenny Forbes, and Danny Griffin. And then our 2 strikers were Nico Brett and Russell Cicerone. So again, midfield, there was a really hot battle between Danny Griffin and Robbie Mertz. Griffin came out on top. And in the forwards position, it really came down to Nico, Russ, or Chico. Chico made it through to the final round, and then those two came out on top. So, Laura Ellen,
I must just like, first of all, this is very small for my very old eyes, but I like I don't know. I feel like Kevin Kerr was part of Lily at the like tail end of his career. I would like, take Kevin Kerr out, put Mertz in. It makes it, and sorry, there's like a combination of action shots and head shots.
Okay,
And
all right, moving on.
Appreciate all the things that you do for us, Mike.
Steve, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I didn't like when you told Josh that Kerr could be in it because of his whole career. But I mean, whole career Kevin Kerr, sure. Bob Lilly, Kevin Kerr, I wouldn't put him in there. I think there are some ways maybe you tweak this a little bit. I think more what I'm interested in is not what this 11 is like, but then what's the bench behind that and what's that depth look like, right? Like that's the thing for me, that are we that far off from almost this team on a year-to-year basis? I mean, yeah, this is the best, but we're probably 80% there in our starting lineup every season of what like a best 11 could be in the Lilly era. But then you see some of those guys that are no longer there that would be on the bench in this. And that's where it gets really interesting for me. And you think, what would a Bob Lilly team look like if you had the depth that this team would have with the bench of the players that these guys were just beating out to get into this 11?
So I will tell you that in terms of all the competitions, the closest battles were at center back, Hugh Roberts was really close to making it into the final three. At winger, Jordan Dover was really close to making it into the final three, probably at the surprise of no one. Midfield, Mertz was really close to making it to the final three. And I mentioned Chico. Dos Santos was also in consideration for the forward positions. So if you have those guys on your bench, like that's a dangerous squad.
I just want to point out
Vidiello as your backup.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Dixon, who's on as a winger, got a hat trick this week as a forward. Just so FYI.
Yeah.
Wait,
Did
you
anyone
mean when
pick
he's
him?
played in his position, he scores a lot of goals?
Yeah.
Dixon played as a lone striker for Monterey Bay and got a hat trick in the first game of the season for them.
First hat trick for the
But
club.
who did they play?
Oh,
Hartford.
Hartford.
Hartford. Right. His
Does
other
that
former
count,
team. Oh, yeah,
They're
it counts.
not bad. Hartford's not bad this year. And then Nico Brett, by the way, did absolutely nothing this game, this week.
Did anyone pick Dixon in their forward line? I can't remember.
Okay, shut up, Kevin.
I can't even see Kevin's face.
Listen, this was okay. Here, I'll take the graphic down. This was one of the. This was actually something that was like, as this game was going, I was seeing messages about sort of Monterey and what was going on there. But one of my thoughts was that with Mertz, it felt like with somebody who was clearly making an impact on the game the way that he was, it felt almost like at times he was off in no man's land in a position where he couldn't impact the game. And I was like, man, it'd be great if Mertz could get more involved. And then I immediately thought of Alex Dixon being played out of sort of like his best position. And then, he goes to Monterey and gets, that might be the only 3 goals he gets all season. I doubt it. But like,
yeah, it's not happening.
We talked about how Dixon could be the most talented player in that 11 that we put up there. And he was just played out of position. So it makes it tough to vote, based on that.
Did you like that 11, Mike? Like, are you happy with that? Do you think that's a strong team?
Oh, I think it's a strong team. I think what's telling to me, and this was partially an experiment to sort of see like who the best 11 would be, and partially sort of a background experiment for myself in terms of trying to understand where the team finds the most value. Because there's a lot of talk in the offseason of like, sign college players or like sign these players from here or which player is the most experienced. And if you actually go down the list and you look at the players that have been most impactful for this team over the Lilly era, where are they coming from? How long are they staying? The fact that Lilly's been here 6 years and there's only 2 players in this 11 that are still here. Like, what does that mean?
Mhm.
Because imagine if these guys stuck around. Like, what kind of team would this be? Like, we're talking dynasty, and it's just like they don't. So why? And some of that, I mean, Mertz leaving to go play for or take a shot at MLS, Griffin leaving and take a shot at MLS. Like, you can't fault those guys. But when you see Ryan James and Tommy V bouncing around the USL to the point that Tommy V doesn't even have a contract right now, like, why? What happened? So, or Alex Dixon going off and scoring a hat trick in Monterey. Like, great to still have those guys here.
I don't know. My thing about this, honestly, I might take our midfield on the weekend over this midfield.
Dude, the 2 love, like, give it more than a game, please.
Mike,
Just
anyway. And then and I would also, I don't know, like, this is a small comment. It doesn't really matter because, like, I'm just thinking of, like, if this team was playing, how would it be? And that wasn't the question. Like, the question was, like, we were kind of voting for Lilier, but, like, this team's short. Like, I would not like this, like, set pieces or corners or anything like that. And lastly, I don't know, interesting question. If you could pull one player from what we're looking at right now on the screen to go into our current squad, who would it be?
Dixon. I mean, that's easy. We need goals. Cicerone as well. I would either one, but Dixon more so.
Zero pause from Josh. He had that locked and loaded. Laura Ellen, if you could pick one player from this 11 team to add to the Hounds this year, who would it be?
I don't know. I mean, where are you going to play them? I'm thinking, I'm way overthinking it. I was thinking Ryan James or Alex Dixon, probably. Or like prime Tommy V, like at his peak.
Yeah.
Ooh, he was dangerous. I don't know. Anyway.
Listen, you play Tommy V at center back. I'd argue he's not out of his prime. I just feel like everywhere he's gone since Pittsburgh, they've played him somewhere else, and it just hasn't worked in their system. So Steve, one player.
Oh, it's Brett when he was on fire. I mean, Brett's the best pure goal scorer I think we've seen under Lily. Russ, Dixon, Dequa, I mean, all have their ability to score goals. But I remember at the Christmas party years ago, after Brett wasn't re-signed, Bob was talking about how he had a guy that was in the league that was young, forward, and he was going to be every good as bit as Nico Brett. Well, he was either talking about Dequa or Mensah, and neither of them are as good as Nico Brett was.
Kev, who's your one?
It's Dixon, but like right behind Dixon is Ryan James. I think he's that good. I think Dixon fits what we need right now. But I think Ryan James is just incredible.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm trying to think of like where we would need filling in the gaps, and that's
the thing. Like, if we got Dixon, like Bob would just put him at right back again. So
right. I think I'm taking James or I'm taking Tommy V just for like additional cover for Kenny, because I am really worried that we're putting too much on Kenny this year, and there's nobody else in that midfield. I mean, unless it's DK, who else do we have that we've signed in the midfield that can sort of step in and play that spot? So, yeah. Good question, though. Be interested in what everybody else thinks. So you guys let us know. Guys, one thing, we got to talk about the upcoming game against Memphis this weekend. But before we do that, I had it on the agenda, but I want to make sure we give a shout out to Pittsburgh Sports All the Time, who came in and had a quote. Not sure if you guys saw this, but we advanced to the third round of the Open Cup due to a forfeit today.
Did it, guys.
First win of the season.
Woo-hoo!
We won.
Exactly. First win of the season.
So good, and didn't even have to play the game.
I'm just glad to see forfeit on the score sheet, tied with Robbie.
Listen, it technically goes down as a 1-0 win. Do we have to credit that goal to somebody? Like, who gets that goal?
I'll take one for the team.
And I'm confused by this 1-0 thing, because I thought it used to be 3-0. Like a forfeit was a 3-0 win.
Listen, Rochester's just trying to find other ways to screw us. So they talked in some deal where it's just a 1-0 and that's it. So for those who don't know,
but would you have rather them like put a hodgepodge team together and beat us? Like, could you imagine?
That would never happen. We've never been beat by a hodgepodge team in the Open Cup full of construction workers who are smoking after the game.
That's what I'm saying, Josh. Sorry, Mike. I interrupted.
No, you're fine.
This is another tangent, but have you seen that Haitian team that's playing Austin in CONCACAF Champions League is registering USL2 players because they don't have enough players that can get a visa into the US. But they won 3-0 in Haiti against Austin. And now Austin has a 3-goal deficit to overcome to advance.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Insane.
It's the magic of the Open Cup.
Yeah.
For those who missed it, Rochester, who we had talked about for previous weeks, officially came out this week and basically said, sorry, guys, we're not a team, so we're out. And so therefore we get the forfeit. It was announced today by everybody. So yeah, that first game that would have been fantastic at Highmark Stadium against the Rhinos. Well, Rochester, they're not really the Rhinos anymore. It's just not going to happen because they're not a team. So we get a pass. We will get drawn into the next round, which is when the MLS teams get drawn in as well. So there is a chance that we get drawn against an MLS team, hopefully at Highmark Stadium, because otherwise it would stink to not have an Open Cup game at Highmark to start things off, because Rochester screwed their fans and whatnot. But yeah, so there's that. Any other thoughts on just the whole Rochester thing?
It sucks.
It makes me sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sad.
Yeah.
A historic club, and to see them go out like this, when they took that hiatus, it was very concerning. It was kind of great to hear that they were coming back for sure. It then kind of, another blow to the gut when it was announced that they were completely stripping away the history of the team by taking away the name and like just not looking like the team anymore. So that sucked. But then the final nail in the coffin, just, obviously ownership who screwed it up and didn't get the job done. And now one of the first pro teams in American history is gone.
And the fact that they also chose to play MLS Next Pro was like, what the hell? Like, what are you doing? One of the few non-2 teams to play in MLS Next Pro. And it's ridiculous. So enough on that. Guys, the Hounds head to Memphis this Saturday. Here's our second shot to sort of see what the team is made of. Memphis lost to Loudoun this weekend, 3-1. But that said, it was really only 2-1 until the 94th minute when Memphis were down a man after Kissy Adu got sent off with a red card in the 62nd. So basically, Memphis was down to 10 men and pushing, looking like the better team against Loudoun, trying to get an equalizer. And that's when Loudoun sort of pounced and made it 3-1. So that's somewhat forgivable. A few things just to point out. Jelani Peters plays for Memphis. So it won't take long for us to see a Hound from last season. John Morrissey at USL Tactics has Memphis ranked 4th in the East, one spot behind Birmingham, who he has ranked 3rd in the East, and he had us ranked at 10th. So if you're trying to gauge some sense of like, what do we have to look at for this game, at least based on preseason stuff, John had Memphis just behind Birmingham and us as like bottom feeders. And we clearly went and got a job done at Birmingham. So, here's our chance to get one at Memphis. I guess before we get into predictions, do you guys have any thoughts or questions or things you might want to see in this game? To either alleviate any concerns or to continue any waves that you're currently riding with this team. Kev, what do you think?
Quickly, I watched the highlights of the Loudoun Memphis game. Loudoun looked good.
Tommy Williamson, other former Hound, scored for Loudoun that first goal, and that was money. Yeah.
Well, when the first goal, the buildup was just insane. Yeah. And so, that could be interesting. And I don't really know what to think of Memphis. Memphis looked okay. Those highlights. But no, I think a lot more to come. I'm guessing we're all assuming more signings are coming too. So, I don't know when that might pop up.
I feel like we need somebody in the midfield. Like, I'm really worried about coverage there. We'll see. But
we did play Rivera can play in the midfield. You have Etu, Ibarra, Forbes, Mertz can all play in the midfield. Yeah, I get what you mean. I think depending on if you want to play, at times it looked like we were playing 5 midfielders wide, and if you want to play that, then I agree with you. We're light. So I don't know. I think more signings to come. Good first impression, and we'll see what happens. But yeah.
Laura, Ellen, do you have any thoughts heading into this one?
Yeah, I think just building, sharpening up some of those passes, some of the heavy footedness. I think just seeing continual progress, even if it's not for all 90 minutes, but hey, we had, according to Kevin's estimation, like 15, 20 minutes of like really high quality play. Okay, let's aim for a solid half, right? Hopefully spread out, right? I'd like to see just slow, continual I'm losing my words, but just slow growth makes I'm happy to see that.
Kind of building off that point too. I think there was courage, like in our last game against Birmingham, in our only game.
You forget that win, that 1-0 win, but go ahead.
Yeah. We showed courage in attack, but it was courage like fueled by, Mike, I think you said it before. It was like courage fueled by like 4 espresso shots. It wasn't courage fueled by like confidence. And I think that could be like to see that develop into something where we're playing with confidence and playing quote unquote riskier passes or anything because we think they're going to come off rather than we're just all hyped up and it's the first game of the season and we're in a way and we just need to go at them. I think that'd be good to see.
Yeah. Steve, what do you think?
I'm hoping to see a shutout. I'm not convinced we're going to score a goal. I think if the game opens up, we have the chance. But getting that clean sheet away would be a nice way to continue what we saw on Saturday. And getting that before coming home for the home opener would be, that's kind of my hope to see.
Josh, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think this, I'm more confident than I was obviously before last week's game. And I kind of agree that a 0-0 draw would not be the worst thing in the world to see out of this team this early on. But at the same time, I honestly think, we should go in this with confidence. This team doesn't look as good. And with that red card last week, they're going to be missing a player. And I'm not saying we're, the favorite to win this, obviously not. But at the same time, like, Hounds are kind of the scrappy team this year. And us being underdogs, that's not a bad place for us to be because we seem to actually do pretty good with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, them missing Cassiadou because he got a red card in the last game, I think is a loss to them. We know that Lily knows a lot about his own players, so it will be interesting to see if he can, pick off anything from Peters after having him as a center back for past 2 years. So we'll see what comes of that. But for the most part, Laura Ellen, I'm kind of with you. Like, I would like to see, more. We're trying to keep possession. I'd like to see more, connecting on more passes and things like that. Because if we don't see that, then it's kind of like, well, was week 1 just like a flash in the pan? Like, was that actually what they were trying to do? Or was that just what happened? And I'd love to see that be a tendency of like, no, that's what they were actually trying to do. And they're slowly building and getting better at it. And so, yeah, I agree with that. Any other thoughts before we get into score predictions?
I think the thing to watch from the Memphis side is, does Goodrum look settled or not? I don't know if anybody else saw, but apparently he was hoping to move to Europe or a bigger team. And I think his words were devastated that he was still in Memphis. And it was damning critique of the front office in Memphis that he's still there and he did not seem happy. I mean, they played him. I don't remember from the highlights seeing much from him. So, I mean, is he going to be a factor for them this week or not? Is it going to take him a while to settle back into that and accept the reality of that? Or is he just going to be unsettled? I don't know. Or is it going to fuel him to be, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong and go get that big contract somewhere else. And now's the time. So it's just interesting to keep an eye on him when we do play them these 2 times this season.
Yeah. Liz, who's here in spirit, brought up a message in chat saying, "Will Wade go to Jamaica midweek?" I had heard that Wade got on a plane like as soon as the Hounds game was over to go to Jamaica. So whether or not he'll be back for this one, I don't know. Good for him for another international call up. Hopefully we'll talk to him again or at some point this season. He was a great interview in the off season. But yeah, I mean, and that we sort of look at the starting lineup like, yeah, that might be what it is, forgetting that Lily loves to rotate keepers and rotate everything. So we might see a completely different lineup. Etu might not even make the bench this week, Kev. Like, we'll see.
Pitchforks.
Yeah.
Pitchforks of us.
Kev, if that's what it takes to get you to Pittsburgh for the home opener, I think we should do it.
Yeah, agreed. All right, we got it's prediction time. Remember, this counts. So, Kev, Laura Ellen, you guys got the W last week. You got the full 3 points. So, Laura Ellen, I'll start with you. Give us your
I'm
score.
gonna go with my I'm gonna go with a 1-1 draw.
Ooh, 1-1 draw. Okay.
Wait, I
Kev?
can't change my mind between now and Saturday?
Nope. This is it.
Can't. It's fine. He won't remember what you said. Don't worry.
I am writing it down, man.
Oh my
We can have
gosh.
audio recording of it though, so we can check.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, but it's only being recorded on the YouTube comments.
Right.
I'll go 0-0.
Ooh, 0-0. 2 draws. Josh.
Gonna be positive and say it'll be 0-1 Hounds.
1-0 win. Steve.
Well, I gotta go with that shutout now that that's what I want, right? So I think I gotta agree with the 0-0 draw.
Oh man.
Exciting
like-
week for us, and we have in store.
That's right. Yeah.
Until this team proves me wrong that they can score goals, I'm not going to be picking a lot of goals.
You and Michael in the prove me wrong camp.
I think. Oh man, I don't like this. I was feeling really good about my 1-0 until Mert scored, and then I was like, "Damn it!" Like, because I felt good about it, but then I also didn't feel good about it.
This is what this does to you. You start being upset that your team scores.
Darn it,
Right,
we
because-
drew.
Because you
We're
don't
gonna
you don't
lose.
just root for your team; you root for your picks. So it's like fantasy in a way.
Yeah, no, you got to not think about your picks when you're watching the game.
I am gonna say 2-1 Hounds.
Wow.
Who's scoring? That's what I want to know.
I think it's gonna be
Mert's
I
in
don't
an
know.
own goal. That's what he's
I
thinking.
don't no. I think at some point our offense will click. And I think the fact that we're going against Peters. Deke was practiced against Peters for the past 2 years. So like he has some sense of how to get behind
And Peters is practicing.
No, that goes
Nico
both
for
ways.
Jay.
it does go both ways. This is true. No, I think one of the new guys gets a goal. And
Which one?
I want to say shown me, but
I'm being rude and really putting
Yeah,
your
I
feet to
know,
the fire
I
here.
and then I'd say something comes from the midfield, either Mertz or Kenny. That's my call. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get a shutout. I'd love to get a shutout. I don't think it's gonna happen. But I also don't think we're just gonna roll over. 1-1 feels like a good call, but I'll take 2-1.
Hashtag ad for Steel Army Teespring. If you go to that, you'll see a shirt that says "Defense is sexy." That's a a good call out for this game. Apparently, that we're all guessing. I think you're the only one, Mike, who has guessed anything more than one goal.
Yes. Yeah.
I won that shirt at a Christmas party at 1 year. I don't know where it is.
Bring it out, man. This is the
I'm
time.
gonna find that.
Also, the other thing to bring out, next Friday is Hawaiian Shirt Day
Yeah,
for the Hounds home opener.
the home opener, Hawaiian Church Day. It's on Friday. And if you want to be crazy, tailgate starts at noon. Take the day off or half a day and come hang out in a parking lot.
My middle son, we went to the Salvation Army last weekend, and he got a Hawaiian shirt for $1. So there's no excuses, people. Like, go get yourself some Hawaiian shirts. Laura Ellen's like, what? Yeah, you home opener Hawaiian shirt, Laura.
I will
Ellen.
be wearing a parka.
I mean,
Because-
I'm also going to be wearing a jacket, but the Hawaiian shirt will be under the jacket.
Yeah, of course, in spirit.
Go get like extra large one and just put it over the jacket.
There you go.
Well, if someone can find me a Hawaiian shirt at a thrift store.
We'll see what we can do.
Right.
But it all starts this weekend, guys. As we said, Hounds travel to Memphis on Saturday. Get your score predictions in before the lineups are announced. We will timestamp them. None of this like waiting to see what the lineup looks like. So we put the post up on YouTube on Friday morning. It's a physical post, and we will link to it from Twitter for those of you who are
Wait, how
looking
do
for it
you
on Twitter.
physically put something on YouTube?
Thanks for
Welcome
being
back,
here, Laura.
Laura.
This is great. Yeah.
I wish I could share my screen. All I wanted to do was talk about the Premier League table for a little bit.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
We're good.
We're out of time. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate it. Yeah, let's go, Hounds. Let's get some points this weekend. We'll talk to you all very, very soon.
Cheers.
Later.
See ya.
Bye.